Mr. Mick, some tasty chops there. Can I just say, what a pleasure to have you back on, because it feels like it's been, I mean, you've been on as Mick from that pedal show.
Yeah.
But to just have Mick, the guest presenter, it must have been 10 years, or many years.
Too many years, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been looking forward to this for ages, actually.
I've missed some of those chops. Some of those chops.
Hey, man, that killer. What did you have on there? It sounded really great when you were digging into that.
So you know what? We are going to talk about the amps in the middle here. And let's obviously, for those that have been living under a rock for the last 3 years, of course, you'll know that I do have an interest in Victory. So take everything I say with a pinch of salt if you wish. But this is the new Duchess Mark II range.
Yeah. I too have history with Victory, which you might have seen on a video that we did on that pedal show.
Yes.
But, it sort of feels like a fitting... to come back.
Your first involvement with Victory was to help launch Mark I.
Yeah.
Hence the reason why I thought, wouldn't it be lovely to try and launch Mark II with you as well. But yes, going back to, so I'm pretty familiar with the, I've used a mix of this amplifier and this amplifier, the Mark I versions, for several years. And relatively recently have begun to, I think Martin said something that Martin Kidd, this is the designer, said something about the difference between a clean amp that was sterile versus a clean amplifier that had harmonics in it, whatever. And it lent me to sort of go, I should probably push this volume up a bit more, compensate by making this one maybe a bit down, find that point where we go from a very clean, potentially could be claimed as sort of a sterile kind of sound into that. It's still clean, but with those harmonics coming in. And then I've been on a long old compressor journey of really not liking compressors. Yeah. And Taylor and the guys sort of saying, look, it would be really helpful in these videos if you could use a compressor, because it will just take some of the sort of spike maybe off it. So ended up with the Cali 76. I feel a bit, I'm the kind of pedal shopper that tries not to buy what everyone else has got until you eventually try what everyone else has got and go, oh, there's a reason everyone else has got this. It's like, so yes, Cali 76, bit cliche, but I love it.
That's the new smaller one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I say new, it's probably old.
And Taylor has been, it did take about a month of going, I still want to turn it off.
Yeah.
Until the point where I found the setting and I leave it on and I'm just used to it, and it's now just, I never turn it off. So it's almost like I don't even realise it's even really on.
So was that just compressor driving the amp then?
No, and then what I do is, sometimes I don't use anything. So this is literally just the compressor. I'll turn the compressor off. So this is nothing at all now, It's just still a nice sounding amplifier. Here's with the compressor. So it's not noticeably different, but I think what you'll hear in the context of a jam is just that little bit more consistent thing.
More evenness.
Then I just use and again, I don't always have this on, but then I'll have just a boost, so no gain. So again, it's just leveled it up.
It's great.
A bit. And then that's it. So that's what you have for. And then the solo is now to put a conventional drive pedal on, of which I've got several on my board, depending on what I want. But I still go back to the Dane as one of my favourite, Yeah. And that's where you first audibly hear gain or distortion coming out the amplifier. My pedal board is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways of adding gain.
And adding overdrive,
Which I think that's more because I'm conscious of the fact this is a demo pedal board. So if one day it's like, can we do an Ibanez or an ESP guitar, and then the next day is a Strat, and then it's all about going, okay, I've got some colour choices here.
Need the flavours.
Yeah, and then I always want more reverb, but I switched it on for 2 seconds at the beginning of the jam and then switched it off again because I just thought it's too much, but That's too much, but it's fun. I've got my harmonic tremolo, which I learned from you many years ago, is a... didn't use that in this video, but I would sometimes. And then the Strymon is my other, it's the other brand I intentionally attempt to avoid because I feel like it's just everyone's, and then you just eventually go, they make such great delay and reverb. They make such great pedals generally. So I've got the EC1 delay. But yes, I was using just Duchess, Boost, and Thorpe Dane and Cali 76 compressor.
I think it sets up the V40 range quite nice. I mean, I remember when the Mark I came out, one of the jobs in explaining it, I was involved in the launch of the Mark I, was you always want to pigeonhole an amp, don't you? So if it's not a Fender or a Marshall or minute range of other brands, Vox, Vox, if it's not a Fender, a Marshall or a Vox, you kind of, any other brand, you want to say, well, what's it like then? And the challenge with the V40 from day one was, well, it can do Fender-y kind of cleans, but also when you push that front end like you were doing, it can get into 60s Marshall territory with a bit more overdrive. And it was really nice to hear the pedal just push it a bit, because it's like, oh man, that is a classic guitar sound right there. And I didn't use any pedals. I just used this. What is this? This is a great guitar. This is a really great guitar. I'm
so pleased you picked that up, because that's the only guitar that I've bought in the last 3 or 4 years where there was no visual lure. It wasn't like,
I don't know. I picked it up because it looks great.
Well, it's a pretty plain looking Hansen S-Type, but I used it. I picked it up in our guitar gallery. I play almost everything new that comes into Andertons. I'm just intrigued to pick it up. And then I just had that thing, which you don't get very often, where I go back up to my office and the little bit at the back of my mind is going, find an excuse to go and play that silver guitar again. Yeah. And like 3 days later, I've just gone, wow, it's obviously something. So I just thought, I'm going to keep that one.
It's great. I went to it immediately and plugging it in, playing over the top of the show there, deliberately didn't turn any pedals on apart from tremolo at the end, and then that very sort of position 2 and 4 Strat thing, Not massively dissimilar settings between the two amps, still pushing the front end quite a bit.
Yep.
And with a bit of master, and yet, as you say, in the clean sound, enough harmonics there to make it interesting, so it's not that sterile, plonky.
When is sterile still a thing? Are there like hyper clean country players, or is sterile just like never good?
Sterile is a pejorative term, isn't it? So it immediately suggests negativity. But I think if I think about those hyper clean sounds, it's definitely not Albert Lee. It's definitely not Hank Marvin. It's definitely not, the
not
classic
Stevie Ray or any of those guys.
I think you might hear it in metal, where it breaks down to the where they go half time and play the big clean chord with chorus on it. There's that. But also, you might even say like Jerry Garcia and the Dead,
right? And
you might say certain director desk sounds where it's not overdriving, but it's not a sound that I've got any use for.
No, but I mean,
or love.
So for me, and obviously it'll be different with guitars with humbuckers, but certainly with single coil sounds, volume pretty much any less than half on this, you're in that hyper clean world. You probably have to go a little bit lower if you're using humbuckers to be hyper clean. You can see I had it on half. But so for me, the best sounds I've found on the Duchess range are now perhaps putting the volume not necessarily where I'd put it if I had a Fender, where I potentially find that the Fender probably goes into that overdrive earlier. But I don't know. I mean, I guess if you want hyper clean, perhaps you play, big country licks on a Les Paul, and you do need that. You don't want that overdriven touch. Then I think this is perfectly capable of doing that. You just have to have
especially when you've got the big one with the extra power, right? So, all right, what's different about Mark II then?
So, Mark I has been consistently either the best or the second best selling amplifier in the Victory range for its whole life. So there was the Mark II has been a long time in the making because it didn't feel like it was worth changing it just for the sake of changing it.
I can remember listening to some Mark II prototypes a while ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like, why are we changing this? Mark I's still super popular, blah. Then, and just to quickly go over it, so within the range, and this was the same in Mark I, there's a 40-watt Lunchbox, which has EL34s in the power section, which might surprise some people, but trust me, we used to do both versions. So the EL34 was the original Martin Kidd design. Yeah. Then, just I think through people going, but that's not the sound. That's not the valve I associate with this sound. So you need to make it with 6L6s. So we did, and ended up going, but the EL34 still sounds closer to what we wanted this amplifier to be, and it still makes amazing clean tones. So now again, it's just available as an EL34 option in the Lunchbox. But there's a bias control on it, so if you want to change them to 6L6s, you absolutely can.
You still can.
There's enough tolerance in the bias control on there for you to be able to rebias it for 6L6s. Yeah. So the Lunchbox has all the brilliant things about the Lunchbox ever, which is that it's very price economical to build an amplifier out of folded metal rather than wooden and Tolex covered. It has a digital reverb, which brings the cost down. It doesn't have the tremolo circuit that you get in the bigger ones. Yeah. It's dual voltage, so can be used anywhere in the world at the flick of a switch. It fits in the overhead locker of EasyJet, which
as per Guthrie's original instruction,
which was still one of the guiding principles of the Lunchbox. Yeah. So I suspect this will still be the most popular amplifier in the range. Yeah. The last year, Victory released MK Clean, which was the right Martin to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Victory. Just go and make the most expensive, ludicrous, like just do everything. I don't care what it costs. We're going to hand wire them, cover them in leather, use all the most expensive components, blah. And that's, I must admit, we are so happy with how that's been received, MK Clean and MK Overdrive.
It remains the clean amp that has the strongest transients I think I've heard in any modern
It's an absolute monster. Yeah. So there were changes to voicing switches and mid-kick switches and reverb on that MK Clean that we thought, you know what, we could take some of these new features, these new voicings on MK Clean, put them in an upgraded or updated version of Duchess, and then that is a compelling reason to bring out Duchess Mark II.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, with Mark IIs, because one thing you do is you risk upsetting everyone who's got a Mark I, and suddenly it feels hard done by, which is completely normal in every other part of life, isn't it? Like you buy a car and the next year it's the next version. An iPhone, it changes every year.
The essence of the amplifier hasn't changed. Yeah. It's a single channel amplifier designed for players that want to use their guitar amp with a pedal board. Yeah. You'll be able to put a Mark I against this and you'll absolutely be able to hear similarities. So it's definitely an evolution rather than a revolution. But the additional voicing, the reverb particularly, I think was right across the range. So the changes we made to the digital reverb on the V40 and the actual trays and the circuit, the drive circuit for the reverb on the Deluxe and the Super Duchess.
Can we just have a quick listen to the reverb? Because I noticed we've got a new control. Like on the original V40, the Lunchbox, there was just one reverb knob. On the Deluxe, there's always been two, but the words have changed. So now on all the amps, we've got reverb and dwell. Rather than explain it, we'll go from 0 reverb. Okay, so the reverb is on 0 and the dwell is on max, and I'll bring the reverb up, and then we'll reverse that so you can see what the two controls do. And you've got two reverb settings now, which you didn't have on Mark I. Okay, right. There should be no reverb then. I'll turn the dwell down and the reverb up. So the nature of the tail changes massively. Like if you want a more subtle reverb, but you want a long tail, stick the dwell up. If you want a really obvious reverb that's over everything, turn the reverb control up. So that's the vintage, and you say the modern's got a bit more of a plate flavour, did you say?
I probably don't... I mean, look, anybody that opens one of these up will be able to find what the reverb chip that we've used in here is. So I can't remember the name of it, but it's not a secret. But it's the same reverb chip that you'll find in many 200 quid reverb pedals. So it's not... We haven't skimped on the reverb, but you can program this chip to do different things, and obviously that's what each individual brand tends to do, is they get it to be their version of that chip. So yeah, vintage is trying to be a bit more springy, so you might hear a slight element of sort of clang in the way it does the reverb. And then modern is slightly more plate, so it should be a bit smoother, maybe a bit more sparkly on the top end.
Just compare those a sec. So we'll start with vintage, then we'll move to modern.
So I think modern does a better job of creating the reverb that you would get in a hall or something like that, and obviously vintage does more of the spring reverb that you might find in an amp.
And then I guess by manipulating these, you can...
Yeah.
I wonder if it will do a short kind of... Yeah, nice. Nice.
Mick's running into the 1x12 extension cab on the floor here with a cream back in it. Obviously, you might have your own cab or whatever your flavour is. I'm trying to remember, I should know this, what did they retain? One of the features that was on the original Duchess that was a very much a sort of a bit of a nod towards the sort of the very vintage sort of single channel amp fans is you can completely bypass the effects return.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So there's most amplifiers have an effects return on them that if you just don't plug anything into it, therefore the effects return doesn't work. But there is a small school of thought that just having an effects return alters the signal, even if nothing's plugged into it. So there is the option on here to just completely turn off the effects return, which is just a button on the back. But I'm not sure that necessarily you're into such minutiae at that point. I think the main thing with it, let's look at some of the voicings, and I think again probably the part of the amplifier that we overlooked the most on Duchess was when you do drive it, it doesn't drive in that sort of blackface Fendery way. It's got much more of a tweedy, almost British kind of drive in it. It's smoother. It's not as scratchy maybe as sort of a blackface sort of 60s Fender kind of drive goes.
It's fuller, without doubt. I can remember that. I remember using humbuckers, which we'll do in a sec. Before we get there, 3 voices. Can we just have I'll flick through voice 1, 2 and 3.
I have to refer to my notes as to what the voices do, but yes.
I think they just get fuller and fuller, don't they?
Absolutely. It's a lower, an additional amount of lower mid-range frequency, but adjustable via the treble control.
Okay.
So you kind of need to use perhaps the 2 in tandem to get the full benefit.
So we'll leave, but bear in mind we're in clean land at the moment. I'll switch to some humbuckers in a minute and we'll drive it a bit. But at the moment we're in clean land. Mid kicks in position 1, and we'll just go through the 3 voice settings in good old position 2. You know what it sounds like to me?
What does it sound like to you?
More clon.
I think what's so amazing is once somebody plants that seed of listen for the harmonics versus sterile, you so because I think most people are still hearing you play a clean guitar sound at this point.
Yeah.
But actually, particularly on the pick transient, you're so hearing such a lovely, warmy, cuddly thing, which is, I think, where that's probably why things like the Fender Deluxe and the Fender Princeton are such super loved amplifiers, because they just do that so simply and quickly, don't they?
Yeah, and a comfortable place to be. I think what I'm hearing is a bit more edge on the front of the note, and definitely more upper mid, which I think is really going to come through with overdrive. Sticking it back into position 2 a minute. Let's have a look at this mid kick then, because we've also got a third position on the mid kick where it used to be 2.
Yeah. So mid kick is stock response in position 1, increased lower mid range in position 2, and more gain in the upper mid range in position 3.
Yeah. So again, this might be, before we get into overdrive, it might be more subtle, but let's give it a go.
1 to 2 is the obvious one, and then 2 to 3 is subtle, isn't it?
Yeah, 1 to 2 seems to put in this lower mid, and then 2 to 3 gives you the clon frequency back. There's much more. If you listen to...
It does say there should be just more gain in position 3, but I guess we just need to probably introduce some gain first for that to sort of happen.
Okay.
Out comes Pete's Tom Murphy 58 still.
Pete, I'm really sorry to play your guitar, but... I picked it up earlier and I fell in love with it.
Yeah, it's the more people that say how great it is, the more eventually Pete will be able to sell it for.
If you watch that pedal show, you'll know I've got a gold top, which I love dearly. I didn't like Les Pauls really, or I didn't understand Les Pauls before I got the gold top. And this has a great deal in common with that guitar. So, okay, let's get it overdriving then, shall we?
Yeah.
So what we'll do, we'll
you know
turn the
what's
master
brilliant
down.
as well? This is exactly the kind of amplifier you want to show just how different a Strat and a Les Paul really sounds. Because I know you're changing the settings now, but this really lets the guitar come through.
Well, I'll tell you what then, I'll keep it exactly as it was when we left the Strat off. We were about there, haven't changed anything else. So what we should now hear is the humbuckers will just introduce a bit more love. The honk on that is just awesome, and that I think that's one key. Even in that, we wouldn't even call it medium gain yet. It's breaking up, right? But that nose on the thing is so much more Marshall-y than it is Fender.
Yep.
In essence, might even be a bit Voxy actually.
I do love Martin's whole track record of designing amplifiers. I think we do him a disservice whenever we go, oh, it's a copy of a X.
100%.
It's always Martin's. It always ends up being an amp that at best is inspired by something else, but ends up being Martin's thing.
I guess it's partially laziness on our part as well, because you do need references. You do need to say this is the amp you might recognise more, and therefore. But
unlike some amp builders who their intention is to try to do their clone of a vintage amplifier or whatever, I don't think there's anything in the Victory range that if that's what you're looking for, I don't think you'll find that in the Victory range. It's always here's an amp that has its own thing, and then you decide whether you like it or not.
That's a double-edged sword of Victory, isn't it? Because some people just want the pigeonhole, and they know that for whatever reason they don't want to buy famous brand X, they want to buy something different.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, well, it can do both of those things now, I'm confused. Well, let's turn the gain up, and we'll just see how drivey it will go. I'll do it in increments so that it's not all at once. Put all the switches in the least affected position, and then we'll flick through. What's also interesting is as you hit the front end more, you drive the reverb harder too. So that might be something you want to be aware of. If you're hitting the amp really hard, maybe just lean off the reverb a bit.
Or again, introduce the reverb through the effects loop with a pedal.
Yes.
And then that'll potentially alleviate some of that a bit.
And if you want a different sound, but okay.
I mean, that for me was that was 50s style guitar amp overdrive when Marshalls and Fenders didn't actually sound as different as perhaps they begun to sound in later years. But yeah, no pedals, just
guitar, yeah. And you heard how it cleans right off. For me, it's got that real mid-range bark that you would associate with Angus, but I'm not going to play because AC/DC being the hottest copyright strike
is it
group out there. Do you play AC/DC sometimes?
Well, we certainly at least do we play three chords.
I won't play an AC/DC riff.
I love that.
That was a bastardization of...
So what happens with voice 3 if we just put it all in? So is that... I think you're right.
Sorry, struggling with tuning a bit.
No, it's that upper mid-range clonny kind of area of stuff that just gets introduced.
I almost call that the Phil X tone because, that's because what we get used to when we're sat at home playing the guitar and it's all nice is this very sort of safe EQ curve of not too much bark in mid-range, nice lot of bass, nice. And audible trebles, but actually, I say this because I went to a Phil X sound check once, and he plugs in his whatever guitar he was playing through a Marshall style amp, and it was like, oh my god, the sheer smack of the high mids, because that's what he needs to get heard in a rock band.
Yeah,
and it's old school, and I think a lot of that sort of general EQ has been EQ'd out of a lot of modern. Certainly home-focused gear, but if you're in a band and you play rock, you want that back. I think you want that bark.
Look, I want to at some point or other we'll show one of these amplifiers with Mick's pedal board as well. But I think just for time's sake,
yeah.
So V40, that's I suspect going to be the most popular one. If you just go, I don't like the metal chassis, I would prefer an amp that looks more like this. You just need to, this amplifier is going to come as the metal box, and then I think they call it the compact sleeve version, but it's basically exactly the same amplifier in a wooden sleeve covered in Tolex with the leather bits on it, so it sticks about 150 quid on the price, but it's the same amplifier.
Okay, so in a wooden box.
Yeah, your choice. They're all handmade in England. If you want to know the valve complement in it and all the other specs, obviously hit the website, it'll show them. But they're all valve, made in England, Bosch.
Oh, and we haven't even talked about low power modes either.
True. I can't remember, does it drop it down to 7 watts or something like that?
Something like that. And what's interesting about that, just before we move on, is
7 watts, yeah.
I'm just going to put set the amp as all amps should be set.
You are right, though. I think YouTube has enabled the world to discover this, and he's absolutely right.
So we'll just go, we're at 2 o'clock across the board, apart from the reverb, and the 2 switches are in the middle. Just go from full power to, I think, 40 watts and 7 watts, is that right?
That's
Something
right.
like that.
Yeah.
And what you'll hear is a big drop in volume, but perhaps not as much as you might think.
I was just looking at our very unscientific decibel meter, and it drops the volume by sort of between 5 and 7 dB by dropping down. So it's about, what's that, half?
Yeah, at least half. The big difference is the change in feel, and it feels much more compressed under the fingers, which is great, much easier to play. So I think it's important to say that if you're looking at half power modes as kind of like home use, you still need to think about attenuators or Peacekeeper, or, you know. I have lots of the volume thing with valve amplifiers is just I don't think there is a perfect. I don't think as yet there is a way to get absolute lunatic guitar sounds at high volume, unless you do just go, I'm going to go down the digital modelling route. Yeah,
but, you know,
I
almost think it's that this whole, for me, the 7 to 40 watt switch is just about changing the character of the power amp compression and where the sweet spot's around. It's still, if you just want to use this amplifier quietly, just use either mode and turn the master volume down.
Yeah.
That's how to get a quiet sound out of this amplifier. But yes, I think you just have to accept that really crazy sort of, you know, juicy overdriven tones at really low volumes, that there are better solutions nowadays than 50 watt valve amplifiers.
I think it's great in a recording situation as well, like if you can't or you don't want to be smacking that high power mode, if you're doing multiple takes or whatever it is you're doing, it just gives you a bit of an easier life and definitely a more buttery, to use a technical term, feel under the fingers.
For me, this style of amplifier, if I was using more of a Voxy style amplifier, I'd be more inclined to maybe try that low power mode.
Yeah.
For these, really, it is about being in the high power mode and then just adjusting the volume to taste. These two amplifiers are part of the sort of deluxe range. So there's a 40 watt one and a 100 watt one. So it's not 140 watts, the 100 watt version of the 40 watt, if you like. And the preamp is identical on the two, and the differences to things like the tremolo and the reverb tray are identical on the two. It's just this one has the bigger power section.
But now we're into spring reverb, right?
So yeah, so we've got a valve tremolo circuit. So these are almost probably these are taking a leaf slightly more out of a 60s style Fender.
Yeah.
Amp with a tremolo circuit in it with a spring reverb. I can't tell you how many iterations of reverb tray we went through doing MK clean, and just realizing that some of those amps and things that we just associate with having epic reverbs in them, it is about it is about making sure that the mechanical elements are, it's not just put a spring reverb tray in it. You've got to put the spring reverb.
I wasn't aware there was that much choice. But
well, I say, I mean, there's several choices, and then of course you can play around with the way you drive that reverb circuit. And anyway, I feel like a lot of time was spent on that on MK Clean, and it's a big step. That is one of the really nice upgrades on Mark II. tremolo circuit, I don't think has been changed at all. It's just a valve-driven tremolo circuit that you can activate with a foot switch. Without the foot switch, if you don't want the tremolo on, you just leave all the controls down and it's fine. Okay, so as I said, difference between these two is just the power section. Is this the sort of thing that it's best just to hear the difference, or do you think most people will just understand, like, when do you need 100 watts versus 40 watts?
Yeah, perhaps it's important to say that you might think that in this day and age, the idea of a 100 watt amp is just pure insanity, but it's not really. It is about volume to a point, but it's really about transient. It's about headroom. It's about what kind of sound do you want. If you're in that world of mid-gain, never really fully clean, lovely harmonics with a classic guitar, 40 watts is enough most of the time right now. Mm-hmm. If you want big, dare we say, John Mayer cleans, and you want that headroom to be able to really make those single notes sing, you kind of need 100 watts in a band, I think, if you've got a spirited drummer. That's the bit that I actually think, in fairness, the internet and YouTube and everything has done a brilliant job of educating people now. That when I first started playing guitar, I just thought that the 50 watt Marshall amplifier was when you played at a certain volume level, and the 100 watt Marshall amplifier was if you needed to just be louder. Yeah. And it's only, and you realise now that actually that's a pretty small part of the difference between, in this instance, a 40 and 100 watt. So John Mayer said something once which only people like John Mayer can really say, but he was like, you have to be a certain level of guitar player to really appreciate why I'm going to use this kind of amplifier. So at 40 watts, at 40 watts, there's everything you're going to play is going to have a certain cuddle and a blanket around it. 100%.
So the good notes will come out to a certain level, but so will the bad notes will only come out to a certain level.
Yeah, you hear it. When we do experience days at TPS, people come in and maybe for whatever reason they don't get to play loud very often, and you plug them into a 100 watt amp and they're like, oh my God, this is suddenly at 100 watts. The edge of this is suddenly at 100 watts. And all of that is totally gone. When you go right down to low volume.
What's your ultimate 100 watt, like, what's the one? Because I know which one it is for me in terms of just the one that you're just like, oh, spicy.
In terms of?
Just like how much everything that you do is just, there it is.
Well, obviously I've been very lucky to play some 100 watt Dumbles. And that is it. But it's for me it's a Plexi Marshall.
Is it? I was going to say mine's the high watt.
Yeah, there you go.
DR103. Yeah. It's like it's like you do not want to be an average blues guitar player with a DR103.
But the flip side of that coin, the yin to that yang, is that if you are the kind of player who's got it, think like Pete, for example. Pete's got it. Pete could play a 100 watt amp all day, every day,
and should
no problem, because he understands that the delivery of the note is everything, and that is not available at low volume because the headroom isn't there, the transients aren't there, and the dynamic range isn't there. So it's not, hopefully we've pointed out, it's not really about volume. It's about what style of guitar do you play.
Yeah, this is if you're exactly what Mick said. In fact, I don't want to labour it any more than that. But don't think, I'm doing pub gigs, so I get this one. I'm doing theatre gigs, so I get this one. Yeah. It's like, absolutely.
This is loud.
Yeah, this is literally just how exposed do you want to be.
Yeah.
And this is, by the way, take this. This is all amps, not the Victory Duchess. This is just that's the deal between a high power amp and a low power amplifier. Right. I've gone with your 2 o'clock everything. I don't know, where did you have the reverb? Obviously, it's a spring reverb now. So although reverb and dwell is kind of doing the same thing, it's all through a spring reverb now, and I've turned the tremolo off. So.
Okay.
Oh, and we're going through the 212 cab now rather than the 112. Nice.
So we should get a bit more, a bit more happening. You haven't heard any pedals from me yet. It's all been amp. So. Straight off the bat, I'm loving that. I think because of the extra space the 212 offers, Also, I'm not sat right next to it, so I'm getting it more off axis. Yeah. And that's a nice, harmonically rich, clean sound. Remember, we're in the 40 watt one, and I guess you've got some single note love there. I'm digging that.
It's a good sounding amp.
I'm digging that. And just out of interest, is everything on 2 o'clock?
Master might be more like 1. So everything was on 1 o'clock. It was the slight. Now it's at 2 o'clock.
So I'm diving about all over the pickup selector switch there and the volume knob to go, that is just, for me, that's a magic place. Because the amp breaks up a bit when you push it, but it will go lovely clean.
So the V40 Deluxe Duchess, you can have as the head, and then obviously it's up to you what cab you run it in. You can have this amplifier here. You probably might not have even realised this is a combo. So this is an extension cabinet underneath, and that's what you were hearing that through. This is a combo. This is exactly the same amplifier as here, exactly the same reverb tray, everything exactly the same. Should we introduce some of the switches and just see quickly what I mean? Again, should do the same as what you're getting on there, but I think with a Strat you can definitely find those.
So that was both in the
off position.
Yeah, the 1 position. Yeah, okay. Immediately that upper mid bark.
Yeah, I like the extra voicings more with single coils than I do with humbuckers.
Fender black panel amp is ever going to do that. Not that upper mid thing. That is very, very martially. And I'm sorry to continue coming back to the classic brands, but that's what I hear when I hear that.
That's a good sound. That's actually quite loud, isn't it?
I do like it.
He likes it. Right. Again, just because, let's just have a quick with everything dumped in. You haven't turned a pedal on. Are you really Mick from that pedal show? Or is this? Have we just got someone that looks a lot like you?
Age brings a certain level of maturity. Are you
using like one of those £50 plectrums?
No. Dunlop Prime Tones.
Okay, fine.
£50 plectrums. What happens when you buy like a bag of these is you don't lose any. If you buy a £50 plectrum, you'd lose it every week, wouldn't you? So what happened there with the extra switches in is that the EQ changed a bit, but there was just a bit more compression under here, which was encouraging me to play in that way. I feel free on that.
That's great.
I feel free on that.
I'm going to go back to that middle position, and then I'm going to introduce some of this tremolo. Are you a big tremolo player? You like harmonic tremolo, don't you?
I
don't know what you're supposed to call valve tremolo that's in an amplifier.
Amplitude.
Okay.
God, because of IK Multimedia, I have a real problem with the word amplitude. because I always say amplitude.
All I can remember talking about to Martin on tremolos was that there was a general consensus, or perhaps it was almost a personal consensus of mine, that I love tremolo circuits, but on Fender amplifiers, they never go slow enough for me. So it's like they're sort of fast quite out the bat or out the gate.
So more of a pulse.
I think this wasn't so much that I wanted the chopped sound, but just I wanted it to be more of like a
bit more
whoa,
subtle,
whoa, whoa, as opposed to whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah,
there's my tremolo impression for you.
like
so hopefully, I've not even.
Well, let's see.
Let's hope that we've retained
pray
that.
that it works. I just want to play this amp. It's killer. Sorry, I've got carried away there. Here's a chord.
That's my recollection of that speed is almost like where it starts on Fenders. So I guess that's probably the classic, but I did quite like that. Maybe it's more because if I'm using a chorus pedal, I'll have a much slower pulse.
It also works great if you're lucky enough to be able to run 2 amps, and you can run one with just a tiny bit of tremolo. Mm-hmm. It just gives this massive movement. Bonamassa did it for a minute.
Did he? Yeah. I think it's interesting listening to you play there as well. I would always associate using a tremolo pedal with big chords to just get that.
Yeah.
But actually, I guess, if you have it on sort of fairly subtly in the background, you just have it on over all of your normal rock and roll kind of stuff, and it just gives a bit more movement to the sound,
used because it was the first guitar effect, really. It was used so much in the 50s in rock and roll that I think it sort of becomes part of the furniture and you don't even realise it's there. Can you set it quite choppy and fast a minute?
I don't know how choppy it goes, but that's maximum depth.
About there. So if we just...
And
it's all over Bo Diddley, right?
Because it's a tube tremolo circuit and a tube reverb circuit as well, everything it just feels like you're sort of you can hear more layers of harmonics every time you introduce. I like it.
I dig it a great deal.
So look, let's very quickly whiz over to the
big boy.
The biggest one. I'm not going to go through all of the... I think I'm just going to set this up with the same kind of sound, and then you can go, oh yes, I can hear the extra...
I'm going to try and be kind to Lee because he is sat right in front of the cab.
Right, half, oh goodness. Dash, dash, there, and I do like these voices in the middle. Yeah. So
we're more or less where we were.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, tiny bit less front end. I won't blast your ears out straight away. different game. We're playing a different sport now.
You look like you're going, there's a nervousness to your right hand. This one, you just went,
Bang, yeah.
Go. This one is, and I think that's maybe I'm now going to sort of crash 100-watt valve amp sales. That's the problem, is that it's like, it's like going to a nudist beach, isn't it?
Yeah.
Basically, there you go.
Yeah,
you better look good with no clothes on.
If there's any tentativeness, it's because I don't want to kill you.
Oh, I see. Now look. I tell you what. I'll move. I'll go and sit over here, and you give it some.
Actually, more usefully, the point is, if you're used to being sat at home and or you use a low power amp, you'll find you hit the guitar quite hard, and if you hit the guitar harder, nothing really happens. And the dynamic is the same, right? So you'll be used to hitting the guitar hard. What then happens if you add 100 watts and you hit the guitar hard, you can go from this
Too much reverb.
Killer though, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. I mean,
what's that saying?
109 you got at one point. It's really loud. It's pretty loud. The thing, I mean, I can now begin to hear that the
speakers.
So in my, two things. One is, it didn't at any point in that sound spiky and unpleasant, which I think is great, because definitely if you go down the plexi route, it can do that thing.
Yeah.
It sounded mega. I think at this much power, I just rolled the bass end off. It was getting overwhelming.
The
bass end.
cab is a really significant part of the sound at this point, isn't it?
Yes.
It's resonating. There's definitely that mid-range bark coming off it.
But it's got headroom. I mean, what's nice as well is that the bass end on that, the big hits of it's just like, there it is in all its full glory. It's not squeezing it. But look, I'm not, like I say, for me personally, and again, one of the reasons in the room that I went back to using the V40 as opposed to the 140 is it's not a worse sounding amp. In fact, for many people, this will be the better sounding amp.
Easier to live with, for sure.
But I just think in the hands of the right person, Isaiah Sharkey, he's Super Duchesses.
If you want the transients, if you want the ultimate clean headroom, if you want every single nuance of what happens here to come out, then it makes much more sense. We didn't plug a single overdrive pedal in. Well,
let's go back to the. I almost want to feel like.
Yeah, I did. I haven't done this one very justice.
But let's use this one as because I kind of feel like, and I don't want, this should be the amp that everybody kind of aspires, I think, to get. That's such a good amplifier. And then if you just want to add some nice bits.
Can we hear it through that cab?
Of course.
Because I think that would have a level of continuity that would make sense. So, yeah, everything at 2 o'clock then.
I hope this isn't going to be like some sort of hugely underwhelming finish, because we've gone from the 100-watt everything mega one back down to, well, actually, this is a good way to end it, 'cause it's like, hopefully it's going to sound, similar ballpark kind of.
Turn some fun on at the end.
That sounds great.
Analog delay, straight to the front. As you heard, it got a bit squashy, so I turned it down a bit. And a tube overdrive pedal, just to push it. Yeah, man.
Was that the Kingsley?
Yeah. It's called
a new one, the Balladeer.
It was a prototype of one.
Right.
He's called it something else now.
Right.
You know, a tube overdrive pedal. If you want to, one that you actually sell would be the Crazy Tube Venus.
I know normally, obviously, it's not ideal for Andertons to promote products on our website that we don't sell, but I have to say those Kingsley pedals are just superb. And he's a lovely chap as well. So I
also use the Venus from Crazy Tube Circuits.
Okay.
Which is just a similar take, but a bit more rock. Sorry.
Oh man!
A bit loud.
But the power amp compression that you're introducing, that's not unwanted in any way. It adds to why it's sounding great, I think.
I am enjoying the mid-range bark of those speakers as well.
Yeah.
That's very lovely.
Well.
Cool, man. And that was almost everything at 2 o'clock. Master just down a bit.
You need to trademark that, don't you?
2 o'clock.
So that every time any knob is set to 2 o'clock, you get paid like a license. Imagine that, you'd be worth a fortune. Well, there you are, look. That's the new Duchess range. Pricing you can go and find on the Andertons website. By the way, if you're watching this video when it first comes out and you would love to own one of these, but it just feels a little bit, out of your price range, because of course this is all made in the UK. It's not super, it's not low end stuff. The Mark I range is outgoing with some discounts at the moment. Okay. So you might just elect to pick one of those up, save a few quid. But yeah, Mark II looks and sounds great. So I'm into that. Thank you so much for coming in and so ably demonstrating it. I really, really enjoyed hearing you play.
It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. I wish you'd played a bit more, but there we are.
Plenty of time for that the rest of the day.
I hope what comes across is it does clean and it does really classic mid-gain, real nice. And then everything on top of that is pedal land.
Yeah.
That's a very happy place. It's a place I'm comfortable in anyway.
What he said. Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Mick's going to hang around for the rest of the day, so I'm sure you'll see Mick once or twice more on the Andertons channel. And then I will do my best to convince him to come back soon. But thank you so much for watching. See you next time.
See ya.